Andrews is known for being Archie's dad, but there's so much more to him than meets the eye. Sure, he's a father, but he's also a proud member of the Riverdale community and a hero in every sense of the word. Much like everyone else in the show, Fred went through a serious character evolution that rendered him even greater than before. Keep watching to see Fred Andrews' complete transformation. You won't believe how many differences there are between the comics and the TV series. Archie is a comic book series that closely follows the adventures of teenagers Archie Andrews, Betty Cooper, Veronica Lodge, and Jughead Jones. This comic book has been popular since the early 40s and has continued to appeal to various generations. With hundreds of issues to choose from, fans of the series have never had to scramble for new content. So when the CW was approached with the idea of turning this legendary comic book series into a TV show, they immediately got to work. Although many characters were added to the franchise to create a steady reality, other characters were revamped completely. One of them being Fred Andrews. In the TV series, we're used to seeing Betty and Jughead's parents. However, the comic books only showcase parental figures like Fred and Mary Andrews and Hiram Lodge. Although Fred was present in both the comics and the show, his character underwent a huge makeover. He was given a fresh outlook and a brand new family life, and here's where things get interesting. While Fred is described as a super chill dad who's always there for his son,
I met your music teacher last night. Yeah, Ms. Grundy. Oh.
This isn't exactly the case for his comic book counterpart. Whereas Luke Perry's character was a construction company owner, comic book Fred is a businessman who works in the automotive industry. The original Frederick Andrews has trouble seeing eye to eye with the younger generation due to being incredibly old-fashioned. In fact, some might even describe Archie's dad as bothered and conservative. But this isn't to say that Fred isn't a good father or a loving husband. Although he might have trouble connecting with his son's generation, that doesn't stop him from trying. He loves Archie more than anything, and the pair are quite close. In fact, Fred and Archie are often seen joking around in the comic book series, despite Fred's usual serious demeanor. Underneath his cool, calm, and collected exterior is a man with an extremely soft heart, and many of us were happy to see that this last part was highlighted throughout the TV series. Although the TV series stayed true to the Archie, Jughead, Betty, and Veronica's comic book look, the same can't be said about Fred's, because, well, they look nothing alike. Like many comic book characters, Frederick is typically seen in the same outfit, which consists of tan dress pants, a white undershirt, and a blue vest with a vertical yellow design on it. Mr. Andrews is also on the plump side and has a hard time losing weight, much to his wife's dismay. Fred is often seen eating eggs and toasts and drinking coffee in the comic book series, as this happens to be his favorite meal. In addition, Fred's hair is black and thin, which is a very different hairdo than the one New Age fans are used to. In the comics, Fred's hair is thinning out and is barely hanging on to the sides of his head. He's got a big and shiny bald head that makes him look like the typical car salesman he is. For obvious reasons, Archie's dad isn't as present in the comic books as he is in the TV series, but when he does show up, he never fails to teach Archie a valuable lesson. Despite working as a businessman, Fred likes to brag about having many other skills. While he might work in a mid-level management position, Fred feels as though he's not living up to his full potential, which is why he wants to encourage his son to shoot for the stars. Despite having some extra weight on his frame, Fred isn't someone you want to mess with. In fact, the character is known for bragging about his strength and is said to be stronger and more resourceful than Archie himself. In the comic books, Fred and Mary Andrews are happily married and are often seen side by side. However, money is tight and Fred is typically showcased trying to pinch every penny that comes his way. The comic book version of Fred Andrews didn't receive a backstory, so we were delighted when Riverdale's Fred spoke out about his upbringing. Fred's stories and flashbacks helped us form a deeper connection with his character, quickly turning him into a fan favorite. Much like Archie, Fred was born and raised in Riverdale, where he attended the local high school. Fred was best friends with F.P. Jones and ended up dating Hermione Lodge for a short amount of time as a teenager. He was a talented baseball player who also had a knack for music. So all in all, Archie is every bit his father's son. Fred and F.P. Jones formed a band called the Fredheads in high school, which got them an in with the ladies. Despite wanting to pursue a professional career in either music or sports, Fred's world came crashing down in his junior year. Fred's dad, Artie Andrews, unexpectedly passed away, causing his son to feel compelled to take over his construction business. Fred never got to say goodbye to his dad, which is something we'll discuss at the end of this video. Fred Andrews is a level-headed man who always knows what to say to cheer up a somber situation. He's always a very giving person, which was clearly showcased in Season 1 when Fred gave FP a construction job despite his better judgment. Fred has a lot of pride, which he uses to perfect his work ethic. He's also an honorable man. Despite having made some ethical mistakes throughout the first season, Fred chose to give up his dreams to honor his father's memory. He took over his construction business and worked hard to maintain its revenue after his father's passing. Fred met and married Mary after high school, and the couple soon had their first and only son, Archie. Unfortunately, there was trouble in paradise, and Mr. and Mrs. Andrews had a hard time being in the same room together. The tension was so bad that Mary eventually moved out of their family home to start a new life in Chicago. It's easy to see that human Fred and cartoon Fred are two very different people. Unlike the comic book character, Fred is a very attractive man who has a cool demeanor about him. The late Luke Perry portrayed Fred Andrews on the CW TV series. Luke had always been known for his stellar acting skills and solid looks. In fact, he was once deemed as one of the best-looking actors of his generation. So instead of having a bulging gut, thinning hair, and a wacky fashion sense, Fred was portrayed as a middle-aged man with a muscular body and a full head of brown hair. On top of that, Fred also had a full beard, brown eyes, and a very casual wardrobe. He was often seen wearing flannel button-ups, jeans, and an undershirt. He stood at 5'10" and regularly wore boots due to spending most of his time on construction sites. All in all, Luke was the perfect person to play Archie's dad. In fact, many people believe that these two characters look a lot alike, and one look at a side-by-side comparison of the actors in their youth is all we need to see to agree. Fred had a lot on his plate during the first season of Riverdale. Not only was Andrew's construction coming up short in the payroll department, but Archie was seriously starting to act out. Fred quickly realized that his son was sneaking out of the house and getting into trouble. So after seeing him with a black eye, he sat Archie down for a talk. Despite having a love for music himself, Fred wasn't too supportive of Archie's musical endeavors at first, but after seeing him play, he chose to soundproof the garage and stand by Archie's decision. Everything became even more complicated when his old flame, Hermione Lodge, moved back into town. On top of that, Jason Blossom had just been found dead, and a murder mystery was dividing Riverdale. Things only seemed to get worse when Alice Cooper told Fred that Archie was sleeping with his teacher, Miss Grundy. On top of that, Fred soon found out the real reason Archie was having trouble sleeping at night, which was due to having heard the gunshot that allegedly killed Jason by Sweetwater River. By the end of Season 1, Fred would be fighting for his life after being shot by the Black Hood at Pop's shop. But however extreme the events of Season 1 had been, this was only the beginning of Fred's troubles. Riverdale's first season ended with a bang, and many of us were desperate to find out if Fred Andrews was going to make it out alive. Although it was soon confirmed that Fred would be regaining consciousness, fans couldn't help but notice how much his near-death experience changed him. After undergoing surgery, Fred was unable to breathe on his own, so he slipped into an unconscious state where he battled some of his inner demons. It's here that we got to see what Fred was really all about. Instead of thinking about the dreams he never accomplished or Hermione Lodge, Fred's subconscious revolved around the only thing that really mattered to him: his son Archie. He dreamt of Archie's graduation day and was showcased filming the events with a happy Mary by his side. Throughout the dream, he kept repeating that he never thought he'd get to witness his son's graduation ceremony, and sadly, these lines would later come back to haunt him.
I think I'd live to see this day.
Yeah, except you didn't, Mr. Ray.
What?
During Fred's slumber, he imagined the biggest events in his son's life. He pictured Archie buying Veronica a ring and proposing. On top of that, Fred got to witness Archie and Veronica's wedding day. However, his reverie was soon interrupted by the Black Hood, who tried to take a shot at Archie. These events caused Fred to wake up. He was greeted by Archie, who vowed to protect him from that moment on. However, Fred revealed that he'd only come back to protect Archie, not the other way around. Fred's near-death experience caused him and Mary to grow closer together. Whereas they used to have trouble being in the same room, they found comfort in each other's presence. Although they didn't get back together, their entire dynamic shifted in the right direction. The Andrews soon found out that Miss Grundy had been murdered and Moose and Midge had been attacked in the woods. This led Archie to think that these murders were connected, but Fred was skeptical of his son's beliefs. Fred began to realize that his son was his own person and could formulate opinions of his own. So despite keeping a watchful eye on Archie, Fred learned to loosen his grip on his son and respect his intuition. Throughout the second season of Riverdale, we saw a major shift in Fred's personality. With the Black Hood still at large, it was only normal for Fred to be frightened. However, nothing scared him more than his son's dedication to catch the Black Hood and get his revenge. Around this time, Fred also began working with the Lodges and trying to improve Riverdale's current situation. The Lodges planned to flip the South Side, turning it into a luxurious Eden. And while Fred was on board at first, he soon began to see the truth. Hiram's arrival put an immediate end to Fred and Hermione's relationship. Still, they had a very flirtatious way of dealing with each other. As the Jingle Jangle threat became more serious, Fred began to suspect that the South Side wasn't the problem. The Lodges were quick to state that the Black Hood originated from the South Side, causing an even bigger rift between the town. With FP in jail, Fred took a bigger interest in Jughead and warned Archie to do the same. Fred's fatherly roots obviously extended to his pal's son, and he was ready to bite the bullet to guarantee his well-being. One of Fred's biggest challenges has always had to do with finances, and his lifelong issue was brought to a whole new level after receiving an $86,000 bill from the hospital. At first, Fred believed the drastic amount to be a mistake, but soon found it to be factual. Unable to pay for his house, his company, and the hospital bill, Fred's nerves began to get the best of him. Luckily, an angel donation was made to his cause, clearing his hefty debt. Problem was, the Lodges had been behind this donation, which amplified Fred's dealings with the Crooked family. To make matters worse, the FBI began poking their heads into Fred's business, demanding his files for the last 7 years. After things between the Andrews and the Lodges became too shady for his liking, Fred made the decision to sever ties with the family, breaking his Sodell agreement in the process. Although Fred had looked the other way many times throughout the second season, he ended it in a righteous way. Instead of working with sketchy people, Fred chose to run for mayor with hopes of changing Riverdale for the better. Unfortunately, he would soon be bested by the Lodges, as Hermione became mayor and Hiram framed Archie for murder. Although he'd meet a dead end, Fred wasn't done fighting just yet. Fred Andrews' third and final season proved to be the most challenging one of all. Not only was he forced to watch his son get berated by a corrupted lawyer, but he was made to watch as the Lodges turned Riverdale into a crime-infested town. Despite being powerless against the jury's verdict, Fred was still a powerful man. So when Hiram taunted his family during the trial,
Hey Archie, have a terrific weekend.
He didn't hesitate to punch him in the face. Watching his son lose his freedom was the hardest thing Fred ever had to do, and he blamed himself for the events that led up to the trial. However, Archie was quick to explain that siding with Hiram over Fred was his own doing, and that no one was to blame but himself. Despite Archie's imprisonment, Fred remains a hopeful man who is proud to be an alleged murderer's father. In Season 3, we finally get to see what Fred was like in high school, and we soon find out that Archie's dad had some secrets of his own. As the youth in Riverdale becomes infatuated with griffins and gargoyles, it's soon revealed that Fred was a member of the Midnight Club. As Riverdale falls deeper and deeper into the Gargoyle King's clutches, Fred desperately tries to free Archie from jail. But Archie soon escapes and explains to his father that he can't return to Riverdale. It's here that Fred learns to let go and respect Archie's wishes. However, he doesn't want Archie to be alone, so when he finds out that Archie and Jughead are visiting Gladys, he drives up to see Archie and gives him Vegas for moral support. Although this may seem like a small gesture, it's actually huge considering the dog is who helps Fred with his own loneliness. As many of you know, actor Luke Perry tragically passed away on March 4th, 2019. He last appeared in the episode Chapter 50, American Dreams. In a twist of fate, Archie will be losing his father at 17 years old, which was how old Fred was when his own father passed. Despite dreaming of watching his son graduate and walk down the aisle, this is no longer possible. Fred drastically evolved in 3 short seasons. He went from being extra stern to understanding, and a little crooked to righteous. He never lost hope in his son and was always ready to lend a helping hand. Luke Perry's abrupt passing has devastated fans and loved ones, and many are curious to see if Riverdale will honor his memory. And according to Cole Sprouse, who plays Jughead, a few episodes have been dedicated in his honor. So what do you guys think about Fred's evolution? Let us know how you feel about the character in the comments below, and be sure to drop some kind words about the late, great Luke Perry while you're at it. Give this video a big thumbs up if you love Riverdale, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more character evolutions like this one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.